One. All right, we're here. NCAA Cross Country Championships recap instantly. Award ceremony just ended. This man is very happy right now.
A happy alum.
A happy alum.
Yeah.
Obviously, our picks didn't pan out, but that's cross country.
Okay. It's the most unpredictable sport on the planet. It's got to be.
Today, we're going to unpack the biggest winners of the day and the biggest losers. Losers is a hard word, but we're just going to say it's like the people who didn't perform to expectations. Let's start on the women's side as we analyze this. BYU comes away with the team title. There were some question marks coming into it. So, Isaac, I guess, like, coming into the day, there was some doubt, right? For sure, because there was no Jenna Hutchins in the lineup,
right,
as we learned this morning. So some other runners had to step up. How did they get it done today?
Yeah, I mean, I think for BYU, Lexi Halliday-Lowry had a really good day. I know she had some hiccups at some point in the season, and so she was still coming along again from like almost Parker Wolf status, of like something had happened, she got better. They needed her to have as good of a day as possible, obviously, as their low stick, and she did. But the keys for them were Riley Chamberlain, Carmen Alder, and Taylor Rotinsky all really came in strong. I think they had, those 4 in the top 43, and I think they had their 5 in the mid 50s. And that's a recipe for a win with a low stick on a team score that was just not going to be that low.
If you're Coach Dale G. Taylor, you were sweating this one through 4K, and then things got better.
Yeah, I think they needed to. They just came along really smart, intentionally. I mean, that race is just like with how clumped it was, and just again the score being so high. I think it was going to fluctuate quite a bit, and then but from about mile left to go, I think BYU had that thing about wrapped.
So from the BYU, as you look at the results,
the
BYU squad, I mean, what really stands out to you about the way that they were able to win it? Yeah,
I mean, you look at the split scores and where they kind of came along. I thought that they were at 194 points at 2K, and to actually end up scoring 147. So they moved 47 spots in the last 4 kilometers of the race, 2.5 miles. That's a really impressive way of just running smart, intentional. They didn't get caught. They didn't get caught up in the moment. They just stayed in the moment. I think that's a huge part of running well at the national meet. Is you can't be like freaking out, looking around, panicking. Just keep your composure, run your race plan, do what your coach says to do, and you can have confidence in that. And that's what they showed, a significant amount of confidence and experience.
Through the early portions of the race, it was looking like NAU was in a really, really good position.
They looked very good.
And they ended up holding on to finish 4th.
Yeah, all in all, on the podium.
Very good day for Coach Mike Smith's final NCAA Cross Country Championship.
Yeah, I mean, all 7 women finished in the top 100 as well, which is honestly a testament to their depth. I mean, yesterday I mentioned that I had a hard time picking who their 7 were going to be because they had so many options to pick from. So we knew they were deep. They didn't quite have the pieces up front. They needed to have bodies in that top, 15 to 35 range. They ended up having, they were 22, 36, 60, 71, 84, 95, 97, which is a really impressive spread and team. They just needed to be 20 spots higher, and they win the race.
We look at the Oregon women. Your pick on the record to win. So for context, people, it's like Isaac makes a pick, but then has his own private pick, and the private pick is always BYU.
Yeah, it has to be. I'm an alum.
On camera, he'll try his best not to come off as biased.
Sure.
So take his picks with a grain of salt every single time. But
sure.
You picked Oregon to win. They ended up finishing 5th. What was the difference there? Yeah,
there was a lot of talk about can their really, really talented track women translate that to here. Honestly, the biggest issue I had with the way that they ran was just they did not get out well enough. And you have to at least be close enough. I mean, like, this is the highest level of NCAA running. Do you think people are going to just let you just blow by them? No, you get fought off. Every single person you run past is like going to try to fight you off. And like, it's not simple. It's not like you have to be in a pretty good position by a K or 2K to at least ensure you're going to finish where you want to finish. I mean, if you're Oregon, I mean, they were in 12th at the K. That's just not.
They just left themselves way too much work to do at the very end.
Way too much work to do at the end. I was impressed with Sheilana Yildiz. I thought she ran really well. Elmore, I think, had a solid day. Annika Thompson is maybe the hero of that team in terms of how well she ran, finishing 32nd. But Claudia Kay, who is sub 4 1500 meter runner, we thought maybe would be their ace in the hole, 100th place, solid. But that's not going to get you in a position to put your team on the podium, right?
So as we look at who's on the podium, West Virginia ranked 4th, finishes 2nd. Kaylee McCabe.
Great. Kaylee McCabe, just a legend. Yeah.
She was up in the front of the race pushing it for a bit.
She ran really well.
I guess West Virginia's 1-2 was always going to be very strong.
Right.
And it's just like the rest of their squad also performed.
Yeah, they only finished 6 women.
Yeah.
And they had the lone DNF in the field, which was an interesting stat for a podium team. But you have to give a lot of credit to Sarah Tate, who I wouldn't call her a relative unknown, but I just don't think we went into the season thinking Sarah Tate's a top 30 woman in the NCAA, gets 34th. Emily Bryce really came through.
Sarah Tate was in it the whole entire time.
I know, she ran great. And Madison Trippett as your 6th, finishing 89th. But when you have 2 in the top 20, if you're 5th, 89th, yeah, you're going to be on the podium most years. So, I think it's just when you have a leader like McCabe, you're in the race and you can see her at Parsfit in the lead, and you can I think she just did a great job helping that team feel confident that they can do this to get on the podium.
So Kaylee McCabe ends up finishing 6th overall. Now, one of the best stories I think of the day is number 11 ranked Providence finishing 3rd.
Wow.
Going 9:16, 19, 41, 98.
Yeah. I mean, they ran really well. I think we had one of our first pods that we did. We talked about Providence. I was really excited about their women, and I thought that they had the potential to be good. They hadn't really had the day yet, but they always had the pieces to be great. I mean, what they did to get 3rd, coming from where were they ranked 11th?
Yeah.
It just really, I mean, they have so much talent. Kimberly May is an elite miler from New Zealand, right? Alex Millard, experience. Look at this, senior.
This was the year.
Senior.
Yeah, this is the year.
4 seniors. Yeah, this is the year to get done for them, and they put it together on the day.
I spoke to Coach Ray Tracy afterwards, and I was like, "What was the expectation for this team in August?" And he's like, "Probably 10th or 11th is what we were looking at."
Yeah.
But he's like, "But as training came along, it was there were signs that maybe we could end up in the top 5 or 6." He was like, there are teams that were better than us, that are better than us on paper, but it's just again, the game of cross country is just it has to all come together on the day, and it did for them.
Yeah.
He's very excited for track because, you turn these athletes around in a week or so, send them to BU.
To BU, they're going to rip.
Quite a bit of fast 3Ks coming up.
That's going to be must-see.
Anyone else stand out to you in the team race that overperformed on expectations?
I think North Carolina's women, I thought, ran really well.
Ranked 21st,
ranked 21st going in. A really good day from senior Bryn Brown, who was a very good high school runner. I think probably had some ups and downs throughout her career, but awesome for her to be able to finish on a high note, getting that second last All-American spot, or third to last All-American spot. I think that they, I would say just from an overall team perspective, they probably were the team that I think I was really just pleasantly surprised with how they ran for where they were going in.
So, not to be a little Debbie Downer, but some of the teams that underperformed, right? We look at number 6 Washington finishing 13th.
Yeah.
Number 5 Notre Dame finishing 16th. What went wrong?
I think it's interesting when you look at some of these results of teams that didn't run as well as you thought. So much of it is if you don't get out well, and you start to not feel good, you start questioning. It's so hard to maintain that foot on the gas. And I think both those teams had some women who had potential to have really good days. And when it starts going south, it can go south pretty quick. And I think they just had enough athletes just have bummer days. And if you get 2 or 3 of those, they start to add up. Because then the women you're expecting to be maybe your 6, 7 or your 3, 4, 5, and they're just not even close to where you kind of wanted them to be, and that's how you end up having a day that those teams had, which is too bad for them.
Let's shift on over to the individual side, which this one almost was, prognosticated by you on the pre-race show, except for the fact that it was actually Doris
Lemngole. We learned how to say her last name right.
We learned how to say everyone's names on the final day of
we did it.
competition.
Yeah, took us all year.
Lemngole ends up taking the win. Sophomore out of Alabama, 19-21. So held off a strong charge there by Pamela Kosgei.
A 2:55 last 1,000.
Yeah.
I talked to Nick Steniff yesterday, and he was really. It was weird how confident he was. Almost like, dude, I mean, are you living in an echo chamber? Like, but he's like, no, she's that good, you know? And she just hasn't put it together.
You learned all of this after you made the picks on
this
the
was
show.
yesterday afternoon, yeah. And he's like, no, she's that good. And I think it wasn't, I don't think it was ridiculous. I think Kosgei was going to win.
Yeah,
I think that was
She's
the
right there.
general consensus was she was probably the favorite. But, you know, when you can put together a 255 last K, no one in a women's race, no one's going to touch you.
Yeah.
But look, how strong did she look? I mean, Mac Fleet took a shot and posted in our group chat of her finishing the race, and she just looked so strong, so put together. That was, she knew that she had that puppy with a K to go. Then when you can unleash a 255, that's just a victory lap at that point.
They were chit-chatting up in that front of that race.
Yeah, like, that's crazy.
It was like they knew they were in control, and it was just going to be who has the fastest kick on the day, and today it was Lemngole.
She did. She had it.
Give some kudos to Hilda Olemoimoy. Like, this was a really strong run for her to finish third.
Yeah, she ran well. I mean, the three who we thought would be the three were the three, which is interesting considering I feel like the predictability is so hard, and I think to be able to have the three right is just proof that they're that level, but also that they just they put it together on the day like they were supposed to.
Yeah, no surprise really to see Amy Bunnage from
she's
Stanford
legit.
at fourth. Like, she's got the cross country pedigree that we've seen at World Cross before. Grace Hartman from NC State.
Great run from Grace Hartman. I mean, fifth.
Yeah.
Wow, this is an elite run.
Kaylee McCabe, sixth. Peyton No from Arkansas, seventh. You stop me when someone that really jumps out to you. Hannah Gapes.
Hannah Gapes, that was a really good run from Hannah Gapes. I think I had her in my individual top 10, so it was validating that she was there, but I do think that that was still an impressive day for her. Someone that I was really impressed with was freshman Rachel Forsyth from Michigan State, finishing 16th. That might be the first name in that mix that really stood out to me. And then if you scroll down though, honestly, like, I wouldn't call it chalk, but it's like everyone who was supposed to be kind of in this top group really was. It isn't until you get to like Sarah Tate at 34th, or maybe Taylor Rotinsky 43rd, where you're like, okay, yeah, these are some women who had, I think, really good days. Now they're always going to look back and be like, I can be better or whatever. But I think from our perspective, these were some of the women that I think had really good days. But in general, man, you look at this list, you're like, yeah, like I probably would have had them top 40. It went pretty chalk in terms of, just the quality of where the women were.
Of the individual side, yeah. All right. One of my favorite things to do with you at the end of every NCAA cross-country championship is the way too early picks for the following year, right? And, this can change, right? We don't know who's going to turn pro, who's going to transfer. But as we look at
good point.
The team...
Who's going to be kept?
Yeah, right, honestly. Not to bring it to a dark note on the future of cross-country.
Who knows? But, anyway,
on the women's side in particular, who is your way too early podium for the 2025 NCAA cross-country championships in Missouri?
Yeah, here's podium. This is in no particular order. I'll put BYU on that podium. I'll put Stanford on that podium. I'll put New Mexico on that podium, and I'll put NC State on that podium.
NC State back.
NC State back. Well, look at what they did. I mean, shoot, you look at that squad. They go sophomore, junior, freshman.
And experience only enhances your...
Yeah, and they had a solid day today, as a team as a whole. So I think that, that's a team... That's a team on the rise for sure. Even though I don't know if on the rise is the right word. That'll just, took one step back to go two more forward or whatever, right? So.
And then if we look at on the individual side, it looks like of the top 10, there's like 7 returning.
Yeah, a ton return. Jeez.
So some great storylines that we'll be able to follow heading into next year. Let's shift gears over now to the men's side, where for the first time since 2004, we have the men's and women's team titles swept by the same school, BYU, and the year of Coach Ed Eyestone continues.
Jeez.
The kids on Instagram are calling him, and in the comment section are calling him the CEO of U.S. distance running, which I like. I like that title. So whoever was
I think he does. I think Ed likes that title too.
All right, they get it done. 124 points. The odds were getting better as the race went on for them in terms of just like there was a point where they had 94 points.
Yeah.
Their top 7 were all...
It looked so good.
So it was a great race. How did it all come together for them?
Yeah,
they were first the whole every single K.
Yeah.
As a team.
In 2019, when that team won, they did the same thing. They were leading the race out of K, and they just stuck it. It was a different race. It was muddy, bad conditions. This wasn't bad conditions. It was a little chilly, but the conditions were fine. The course really wasn't even that bad either, really. I thought the course was in pretty good conditions. Kudos to those working the course. But they know that recipe for them. When you have a really good spread and you know that, if you can just get out in a decent position, the likelihood of you being able to stay within plus or minus 10 or 15 spots of where you are at 2 or 3K is really high. And as long as you're not totally overexerting, which it wasn't hot from the gun, 232 was not the right call for a K. I think it was 245 or something like that.
Way off.
Samsonite was way off. So I think that they just knew they needed to be in a certain position through 2K or 3K, and they were. And so because of that, they just kept that thing rolling. And when you're in it and you're looking around, and they had this whiteboard up that they had like marked how far back they were from. Or they were supposed to be how far back they were from first, but the whole time it was just minus this much from second, right? And I think when you're seeing that and then you're looking around and here's my teammates, you're like, dude, we just got to dig deep a little. It's so much easier to find that extra something within you when you know it's there.
There was a strategic push from the front, too, from Casey Klinger, where it's like, if I can beat down some of the other top guys.
Right,
like,
exactly.
In a way, like, he still ended up finishing 6th overall, but slightly was a guy who he could have, Graham looked great, but in a way Casey fell on the sword just slightly.
Yeah, just a little bit. I think that, and Casey told me that. He's like, I wanted to motivate the guys. He's like, I thought maybe if I went for it, my team would see me do that and be stoked by that, and I think that worked. I think that really did play a factor in the guys looking up, seeing Casey in the lead, being like, all right, if Casey's gonna do this, let's go, let's ride. I think that played a role there for sure.
Casey's also in a rush to get home.
His wife's about to have a baby.
His wife is about to have a baby in less than 24 hours.
What a good weekend to be Casey Klinger, huh? Good grief.
The man has places to be and lots to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so BYU got it done, and the makeup of this team, how what's the future look like?
Yeah,
they obviously lose Casey.
They lose a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they lose Casey, Creed, Joey, and Aiden Troutner, 4 of those 7. And Lucas Bond's probably as well. I don't know for sure if he's coming back or not. So they really bring back just Davin Thompson and Olympian James Corrigan. So yeah, I think it would be easy to call it already a rebuilding year for next year for sure. So they've got guys, they got some horses in the stable, so to speak, that are legit. That will help them maintain, a semblance of relevance. But when we go over our future top podiums, they'll hold that till then. But
all
anyway,
right. And then on the thought of we came into this day and all weekend, Oklahoma State, they're going to run the show. This is one of the best teams in history. Wow. And then today they end up finishing 8th place, 256 points. What could have gone wrong went wrong for them.
Wow, it's tough.
Really tough day.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to, kick someone when they're down. You know what I mean? It didn't come together today. It's interesting though to note, at 1K they were in 7th with 272, and at 10K, they were 8th with 256. They just didn't get out. You have to get out. And I think, talking with a few coaches, the thought was, be conservative because it's going to be a hot pace. But guess what? It wasn't. So for those who were conservative, I think they were shook by the fact that wait, I came through in 248, and I'm 200th, and what's happening? I think that people were surprised that it just wasn't fast.
Yeah.
And I think that people's plans to be smart, lay off, did not pay out today. The plan today for a podium finish had to be get out in good position and with opportunities to move and be free. It's tight in there. It gets narrow. It's not an easy place to move. It's not a narrow course, but there's 255 bodies in there, and these are all very good runners. Just like I said about the women's race, no one's going to just let you go by them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there was some misnomers, about how the race was going to go, and because of that, people's race plans could have significantly affected them. And if Oklahoma State's plan was to be patient and move up, that just didn't work today.
Iowa State and Arkansas did it.
Yeah, they did, and they ran great.
So breakdown, I guess, for those.
I thought Iowa State was coming.
Yeah.
But still, even at a K, they were 4th with 196 and finished 2nd with 137. Right? They were still in it.
Yeah, and with a K to go too, it was all right, these guys, BYU's got to close it.
Yeah, it was. There was some panic amongst the BYU staff with the K to go. holy crap, we cannot blow this, because Iowa State was coming. And I do believe one of Iowa State's top 5 guys was in that big mix-up. There were a bunch of guys fell. I wonder how that would have impacted the scoring. I think, what was the difference? There was only 17 points between the first and second.
No, and if you look at the back end of the guys who did score, it's like BYU's 4th and 5th guy, 35th and 43rd.
Yep.
Iowa State's 4th and 5th guy, 32nd,
37th, 49th.
And
yeah. So great run from Gable Seeper to geez. Anyway, just looking at these results, the guys for Iowa State that we thought would come through kind of did. Like Sonelli Masondo is just a big time championship racer, and Saeed Mikhail finishing 10th. That's an unbelievable day from him. And for Rudo and Bira finishing 34th and 37th, freshman, first time in the NCAA, that's a pretty solid run. It's just hard to expect a lot from I think, when you come to the States, you're running in the NCAA, you just don't realize what this race is like. Until you've run in it, you just don't know. This race is nuts. It's and being able to keep your composure is so difficult. You kind of have to have that experience of having done it once to really then feel confident. That's why we always freak out about true freshmen running really, really well. Yeah. Like this will date this 10 years ago, and Ben Sorrell got 8, and everyone was like, whoa, because it really was impressive, right? Because it's so hard as a true freshman to keep your composure and run really well here.
Yeah. And then the last spot on the podium goes to Mick Byrne and the Wisconsin Badgers. Yeah, Talk about their day.
Yeah, I remember yesterday after our conversation thinking, maybe I should have gone Wisconsin in there, because I knew they were going to run well here. I just didn't know it was going to be that good. I mean, they had guys just running that's 31-second spread is really impressive in this race. Over 10K to be able to keep your 1 through 5 together that well is really impressive.
Bob Liking, Big Ten Bob.
Big Ten Bob, 16th. Adam Spencer, the Myler, finishing 45th. Mayton Avery. I mean, are we serious? That's an unbelievable day from him, the Israeli native. You put 6 in the top 70. That's an impressive day. Recipe for a podium finish if you got a low stick like Big Ten Bob. It's a great run from them.
So the NAU dynasty for Mike Smith ends with a 5th place finish.
Yeah.
Overall, he was very happy with that.
I think he would be pleased with that. I think that was, again, I feel like one thing that has been interesting following Mike Smith's coaching career is most of the time he's pretty happy with the way his teams run. They just are so good at detaching from outcomes that I think he just watches these races and thinks, hey, these kids ran the best that they could have, and I'm pleased with them. I think that does do a good. I think that helps take some of the pressure off, right? Sure, he had some guys that didn't have great days. I think, Cale Groten-Weiss is really good, and 158th is probably not his best day, and a few guys like that, like Ford Washburn, in the 120s. And those are really talented guys who didn't have great days, but I think the future is still going to be bright there. Jared Cornfield's going to do a great job replacing Mike Smith. Their culture's not going to change. It's still Flagstaff. People still want to go there and run there. And so I think Mike's left the program in a great spot. It was leaving the program in a great spot, and he's a legend, man. I mean, he's one of the all-time great NCAA cross-country coaches, right? He's got to be in that conversation.
Yeah. Let's shift on over to the individual side.
Wow.
Grand Blanks, tough as nails.
Tough as nails, man.
Closed it out in that final K to pull away from, it was actually Brian Massow, who he was battling with for a bit. Massow ends up fading and finishing 5th.
Right.
Dylan Schubert from Furman,
who
we'd never spoken about.
That's the run of the day. I mean, Grand Blanks wins, amazing. Defending the title. Expected. Hatem Samuel second. Despite the shoot issue. Crazy.
He's on crutches.
Poor guy on crutches. I know.
Yeah. Kind of ruins whatever plans he had to run.
It really is too bad. Yeah. But Dylan Schubert, that's the most impressive individual performance of the day, in my opinion.
So where did he come from?
Well, he's a Colorado kid, if I believe. If I'm right on that, I'll just click on this to find out. Yeah, Loveland, Colorado. He's been good. He's been one of the better guys in the NCAA in that upper echelon conversation, but he put that together today. Reminds me of when Frank Lara did it here. I think he did the same thing here in 2018. Maybe. I think so. But anyway, it's just interesting to see another Furman guy have a great day at Wisconsin and finishing 3rd here is just an unbelievable performance from him.
So Grand Blanks closes out his Harvard cross-country career, back-to-back, joins the likes of Connor Mance, Steve Prefontaine, Henry Rono as guys who have gotten it done. I mean, what have you made of the last 2 years of Graham Blanks' evolution as to not just one of the best U.S. Distance runners on the NCAA level, but in this country, he was 9th at the Olympics. Or 11th, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Finalist.
Yeah. 9th. I think it was 9th. You just can't ever count that dude out. Like, I had a brief moment, even yesterday in the middle of our conversation about, like, do I not pick Graham just because, like, that's just almost the boring call? Like,
sometimes you got to be boring.
But you know what, though?
I'm boring all the time.
Dude, I was like, listen, nope. Isaac, don't be an idiot. Graham's not losing this thing. He's just money. He is nails. And I was at the 1K to go mark kind of all by myself. It's kind of a great place to be, actually. With 1K to go, like, you know, like, you could actually say stuff to the athletes, and they would, like, kind of, like, look at you, especially guys that, like, they knew me or whatever. And that was really cool to see, like, Graham at that point. Like, he had just gotten kind of to the front, and he's climbing that hill, and he just made that look up, and he had this look like just like the dog had come out. You know, he was like, this is it. It's go time. He looked ready to roll.
Yeah, down this final home stretch, he was looking around just to make sure he had it in the bag, and then
it was tighter than he probably realized, though.
It
1.7 seconds.
Hampton was coming, and so was Dylan Schubert for quite a bit there.
It's amazing.
Yassine Abdallah.
Great race. And yesterday we were talking about Arkansas's team, and I'm like rattling out these names, and I'm like, there's a dude I'm not saying that I couldn't remember is Yassine Abdallah. Of course it is. The Olympic marathoner. I mean, yeah, I think today was a testament to strength, right? Like, the guys who really got done are strength guys. And Yassine Abdallah, I think he's putting a lot of work in. He has a massive base from the Olympics, and finishing 4th here was just a really impressive run. Real patient run from him too, I would say. Just really smooth, under control. It's a great run from him.
Rounding out the rest of the top 10, Brian Massow 5th, Casey Klinger 6th, Parker Wolf 7th with his teammate Ethan Strand
Great
right
runs.
there in 8th, Liam Murphy 9th, and then Sid Michal from Iowa State 10th. If you scroll a little bit, like, who stands out to you? I mean, I want to give a little shout out to CITIUS Mag intern Gary Martin.
Gary Martin's a legend.
He was sticking his nose in there, and we saw what he looked like last year. His soul was left somewhere on that course in Virginia.
Tough. Yeah, right.
And then today, I chatted with him, and we'll have a funny interview up on our YouTube channel afterwards. But I said, Gary, you look terrible, like, at certain points in this race. Like, he's got the little
lean, yeah,
and
sure,
his head tilt. But somehow gritted his way to the finish and got it done. And he said to me after, he's like, I'm a cross-country guy now. And I was like, well, what changed? What did it? He's like, it's just consistency.
Yeah, the strength, the consistency for sure.
Like, and then I said, all right, well, I guess in indoor season we're going to say goodbye to Gary Myler, Gary Martin the Miler.
Yeah.
And hello to Gary Martin, the 5K guy. And I think 3K is maybe where they meet in the middle.
Nice sweet spot.
Vin thinks he's a little too tall for the 5K indoors. But we'll see. But Gary stood out to me, and that's just being totally biased.
I think some who stand out are like the guys who won their regionals. I think Liam Murphy won his. Will Zagarsky won the Great Lakes, and he was 17th. I thought that was a really good run from him. Let's see, George Cootie won Southeast, and he was 14th. That was a really good run from him. Here's a guy that needs a brief little shout out. Alan Kiplagat from Middle Tennessee State, who transferred from transferred to Alabama, and Middle Tennessee State was just like, yeah, we'll take you, and Keith Broman did a great job developing him, and freshman, to finish 19th, to have that kind of composure. That guy ran really, really tough.
One of my favorite things to ask you, just sort of, and so now while you have the results up in front of you, like that, it's who's going to be surprising during the track season. Like, yeah, we just finished up a cross country season, but like, who are the standouts for you that you're like, all right, watch that guy on the track now?
I put George Cootie in there for sure. I think he's a guy that's going to have a really good track season. Ethan Strand, I think is going to have a really good track season. I think those guys from Penn, I think Dylan Throop had a really good day today, and I think he's going to be a surprising guy. Like, not surprising, but like just from what he had run in the past to what his development into cross and then into what he did today. I think he's a guy. Another guy that I thought had a really special day that I think is proof of the strength element is there Aiden Smith. I mean, sophomore from Oregon, 29th. That dude put in work this summer, and they were up in Park City, up near us for a long time, and I think that camp really helped set him up for a for a good campaign this season.
Okay, way too early. Picks for the podium 2025 NCAA Cross Country Championships.
Oh, man, that's a tough. I think you got to put Iowa State. Again, I think they return a lot of good guys. I think Oklahoma State will be back with a vengeance next year. So I'll put Oklahoma State in there. I'll put Arkansas in there, and I'm going to put Wake Forest as a podium team. And they were in the mix early in the race, and they faded just a little bit, but they have a lot of talent that's coming back. JoJo, Rocky, Charlie Sprott. Let's see who else comes back from that group. Hunter Jones, foot-locker champ. So and John Hayes, master recruiter, great coach. That's going to be a podium team next year.
All right. Overall, great day here at the 2024 NCAA Cross Country Championships. Isaac, it has been a pleasure as always to unpack all of the action from the preseason all the way through here. Let's run it back again next year.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
All right. That does it for CITIUS Mag live here from Madison, Wisconsin.